Hello everyone, I'm so thankful you've been tracking with us in our community, and I have exciting news. Our church website, it's been revamped, it's been reworked, and it's updated. So I'm thankful for all the people who have put their time and their efforts into this, and it's up and running now. So I'll put it in the link below here. So come visit us there and you'll see slices of our community life. We have news and update and ministries, and there's also a link to my channel here. And I do apologize that I haven't been able to post my live Zoom sermons. I still need a bit of help in that area. Okay, so I'll be taking a few days Sabbath rest with my family, and I'll be away this weekend. So I want to wrap up our teaching series on honest prayers. Today we want to look at our final category, which is called Contemplative Prayer, or sometimes called the prayer of the heart. And our teacher this morning is the very well-known and respected Reverend Richard Rohr. Father Richard is a Franciscan priest in New Mexico, Albuquerque, and he is another spiritual teacher who I have learned so much from. And he's kind of like everyone's favorite grandpa. He's so wise and so filled with life experience with God. And in today's two short homilies, he describes contemplative prayer very simply for us. It's actually very simple, but it's not easy to attain, because contemplative prayer isn't a category of prayer, or it isn't a kind of prayer. It's more a way of praying. It is a condition of your heart and a disposition of your mind, and it takes practice to get there. And all of the spiritual teachers down throughout Christian history have learned contemplative prayer. And it's from the truth of Scripture that is basically unceasing prayer that we see in these two verses. In 1 Thessalonians, rejoice always, pray without ceasing, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. And in Colossians 4, devote yourself to prayer, being watchful and thankful. Unceasing prayer. That's pretty intimidating. Pray without stopping? Is that even possible? It actually doesn't sound achievable, and it's probably not what you think. It's not repeating memorized prayers, nor is it having this extended verbal prayer with God. The spiritual giants have described it like breathing. Prayer life is natural, and it becomes a part of you like breathing. And it's natural to breathe because it gives you life. But if you stop, that's unnatural and you're dead. So contemplative prayer is having the very presence of God with you at all times. Contemplative prayer is practicing the presence of God. And I told you this story before, the story of Brother Lawrence. And let me remind you about his story. Brother Lawrence died over 300 years ago, but he has become a hero of the Christian faith. What did he do? He didn't start a new order, nor did he build a monastery. He didn't heal masses of people, or did he lead a very large parish. If we look over at his life, he didn't actually accomplish very much. He was actually uneducated. He was an obscure French monk who lived in a small village. And what made him a hero of faith was because he peeled potatoes. Yes. As a lowly monk, his job was in the hot kitchen peeling potatoes. And the kitchen was always busy, so he wasn't given a whole lot of time to join the other brothers in prayer and liturgy. And it was in the kitchen where he learned to pray for 3 decades. And Brother Lawrence learned to make the kitchen his sanctuary. And here, amongst the steaming pots and the loud noise, he developed contemplative prayer, what he calls practicing the presence of God. He devoted every moment, every cut, every peel to God. And as he did this, he developed this incredible inner peace and joy with Christ. And this connection with Jesus was so deep and so intimate, he literally lived in this constant awareness of God's presence with him. And it didn't really matter what he was doing, picking potatoes, sweeping the floor, or eating a meal, or even on his knees. And the other brothers in the monastery noticed his deep contemplative way of life, and they began to go to him in the kitchen for counsel and for help. And even the higher ranking brothers, they went to him to receive his encouragement and his guidance. And one of the most famous quotes in his book is probably this one, where he says, "The time of busyness does not differ with me from the time of prayer and in the noise and clatter of the kitchen. While several persons are at the same time calling for different things, I possess God in as great a tranquility as if I were upon my knees in the blessed sacrament." Wow, can you imagine that? Even in that busy, clanging kitchen, he found this inner joy and tranquility that all monks have wondered, how do you do that? What keeps you so calm? What allows you to have that radiant joy? And he told them, practicing the presence of God. Brother Lawrence was a contemplative, and he was praying unceasingly as he understood what the Bible taught. And he developed this constant conversation and this awareness of God everywhere in every single moment of his life. Whether he was boiling soup or sweeping the floor or eating a meal or chopping wood, Jesus was right with him. And this was his practice of praying unceasingly. So God is with us. He has never left you. He is always beside you, no matter what you're doing or where you are. He is in your kitchen and in your office. He's in your boardroom and in the courtroom. He's in the back alleys and in the front alleys. And some of his reflections are in a tiny booklet called Practicing the Presence of God. It's a great devotion guide, and it's still a bestseller. It's not copyrighted, so you can actually search it and you'll find online versions of it. So today our guest speaker is Father Richard Rohr. He's a Franciscan priest and one of the most popular spiritual authors and writers. He's written all kinds of books on spirituality, and his reflections can be found online. So the first talk that you'll see is his conversation between him and Oprah. Yes, Oprah, the queen of morning talk show. And here he gives her and everyone a primer about how we listen, how we attend and contemplate upon God throughout our day. And in the second interview, Father Rohr gives some deeper insights into the stance of contemplation and praying unceasingly. So he is so wise, so practical to help us grow in our spiritual life. So I pray that God would expand your curiosity, that you would notice God more, that you would trust him as you reflect and see him throughout the day. So have a wonderful gathering this Sunday, and I'll see you online next week at our joint congregational meeting. Blessing to all of you.
For more than 40 years, he's taught seekers around the globe. Renowned author and theologian, Father Richard Rohr, a much sought-after speaker who's traveled the world, he continues to inspire readers with timeless wisdom through his writing, including his book, Immortal Diamond, The Search for Our True Self. Do you have a morning ritual?
Well, I do make my cup of coffee right away, and then I sit for 20 minutes, in silence.
Do you call that meditation, or do you just call it sitting in silence?
I use the word contemplation more, but those are just words.
Just words.
It's all words. And I need to stay there as long as it takes for me to get to the moment of rest. So some days I have to sit longer than 20 minutes. Some days I cheat. I can get there in 2 minutes, where it's okay. It's all okay. I've handed it over to God, and I'm not going to take issues and personas back onto myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Oh, good.
I really do.
I think it's true.
Because there have been times when I've been in the middle, okay, I'm going to take 20 minutes. And I got there. That's so validating to hear you say that. Because I think, should I still keep sitting? Because I already hit it. I already got it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we do people a disservice. That has to be the lotus position or some posture or for a set. No, it's not true.
It does not.
You can get there.
You can do it in an instant.
In an instant.
you can do it in
That's
an
right.
instant.
That's right. Very
Absolutely.
good. We're in the same place.
We're in
Yeah.
the same place. So what do you look forward to each morning? Like I've now started to look forward to, let me just share this. At first I used to because I have the 3 little dogs who sleep in the same room. I was trying to do it with all 5 and it just got to be too much. So now I keep the 3 little ones. And they all have their little beds, but in the morning when the sun comes up, they all jump on the bed to wake me up, and they're all looking for their little hook. And I used to be like, get off the bed, get off the bed. And now I just decided I'm going to take it in.
Yeah.
I'm going to take it in. And now it's one of my favorite love
Rituals,
moments.
huh?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
one of my favorite rituals. Is
yeah.
the dogs jumping on the bed going, come on, gotta pee.
If only we could live in the moment like
Yes,
they do,
yeah.
with total excitement.
Excitement.
Yeah, I know, my Venus is the same way. You know, in the summer months, I do love to walk. After I sit, I walk in my little garden, or around my hermitage, I have a little garden. I could not be happier in the world, and with my dog and my garden and the quiet. I mean, what more? What more? There's no 5-star restaurant that would be happier than that.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. You get it, I can tell.
You know I get it. You know I get it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You know, let me back this up with a little bit of history. I don't want to bore you with history, but I know for most people, the very word contemplation, they say, where did that come from? Well, what happened is that our word prayer, that Jesus uses a lot, the Bible uses a lot, had already been cheapened, trivialized 2 centuries into Christianity. And it became a functional, problem-solving, practical thing. To pray meant to make announcements to God and tell God what you needed. It was a transactional thing, all right? So after 313, when we become the established religion of the Roman Empire, you've probably heard how these very sincere seekers went off to the deserts of Egypt, Palestine, Syria, Cappadocia, which is eastern Turkey, and that became the birth of what we now call monasticism. The reason it happened was because the main line of Christianity had become fast food religion. Right? Everybody was just Catholic because the whole kingdom was now Catholic. And you were Catholic because you were Italian, not because you met Jesus. And you Protestants discovered that about us. Thank you very much, because you're right. But nevertheless, there was always a strain that wanted to go deeper and say, what's Jesus really talking about? So they started using another word for prayer, and that word is contemplation. It's lasted down to our time. So in the Catholic Church, we have contemplative monks who make that their whole life, contemplative orders. It's really a different form of consciousness. It's not saying prayers, it's living in constant unitive union with God and everything around you. So whatever you do is a prayer. That's why Paul can twice say in his letters, pray always. He can't mean walking around saying the Our Father all day. And the very fact that in Luke's gospel, they have to ask him, teach us a prayer, like the disciples of John the Baptist have. We can assume he hadn't taught him a verbal prayer. His form of prayer when he goes off to the desert is what we would call contemplative prayer, where you rewire this mind so that everything you do is connected in loving union with the moment, with whatever's right in front of you. That's contemplation. Now it takes practice. I'm not there yet. I've been practicing all my life. On my better days, I touch upon it. I can enjoy it for moments. But it's hard to maintain a contemplative mind 24 hours a day because you keep getting pulled into argument, emotion, feelings, hurts, agendas, all the rest. So you have to practice rewiring this. The normal way you and I are wired is dualistically, right? Where you're presented with good or bad, gay or straight, black or white, good or false or true, and male or female. And then you're supposed to choose one of those. That's why America's so angry today. Really, I'm not exaggerating that. When that's the only mind you have, and you have to make a false choice and make men better than women or women better than men, you know, you're never happy because it isn't true. It's never true. It's a false truth. And then you ensconce yourself in it and have to defend it and have to defeat the other side and show why they're terrible. That's the non-contemplative mind. Now, it's really only been the last 50 years. It was Thomas Merton, the monk in Kentucky, not far from you guys, who pulled back the veil and said Christianity doesn't teach contemplation anymore. After the Reformation, and we started fighting one another, and then the various Protestant denominations started fighting one another, you can't be contemplative anymore. That was the death of contemplation, because that's the triumph of dualistic thinking. Once you're fighting, you're dualistic. Trust me on that, all right? You've got to choose sides. You've got to prove your opinion. Every debate society can't seek high truth. It settles for a low-level truth between these two debaters. And that's all we have left. So if we don't rediscover the mystical, contemplative, non-dual mind, and I use those three words interchangeably, they are the same thing, I don't see how we are any alternative to Western civilization. I'm going to make that or that big a statement. I don't know if it's bland or big. But I just see Christians largely having the same prejudices that everybody else does. That people look much more like their state than, than Jesus. And that's pretty evident right now in this country. That we reflect what part of the United States we're from, much more than having read the scriptures. Now, I've got a book coming out in a few weeks that's going to be called Just This. Just This. And it's just about 50 little exercises to help you to be present to just this, that little leaf there sitting on the grass, and honor God in that, and be content with that, and delight in that. That's contemplation. The best simple definition I can give you of contemplation is a long, loving look at the real with a big R. When you look at something long enough that you can love it and let it be reality for you, you're at the first door of contemplation. I don't have to judge it up or down. I don't have to analyze it in or out. I don't have to say, will that make me money? It's just a leaf. And God created that leaf for some unbelievable reason. I don't know why. And I'm the first eye that's ever able to delight in it. That's Contemplation 101. And it sounds so simple. In fact, it is so simple that it's hard to teach. It's really hard to teach. Then, once you have that mind, then you'll know how to pray. And prayer of adoration and thanksgiving and joy will come before just asking for things. Not that there's anything wrong with asking for things, but when prayer becomes simply talking God into things and asking God for things, you know what stays center stage? The ego. It's all about what I want, what I need. Now God is my personal servant that I can get to stop the hurricane in Texas, you know? That doesn't create highly enlightened or loving people. So that's why we teach here the contemplative mind. And then we send people back, hopefully, as much more effective change agents. And they're going to be much longer lasting, because now I don't need to win. I don't need to have people agree with me. My truth is held within me, and I offer it if people want it, but if they don't, I know it's their loss, it's not mine. It's not mine. I can still enjoy it, because again, it's the indwelling Spirit. We, as Paul says in Romans 8, we do not know how to pray. We don't. The Spirit prays in us through groans unutterable, through feelings that we didn't even know we had, and thoughts. I mean, my best sermons, I preach just when I give them. I didn't think about them ahead of time. Do you understand? They come just there, if and when I can remain in the flow. But the secret is always to stay in the flow. And then your gift comes naturally.